So as you know, we've been employed by FW3 to understand the initial sales figures of the Freedom pilot. The Freedom product has targeted the elderly demographic with a differentiated product that is 25% lighter than other products. Having implemented analytics for the 72 local authority districts, we want to develop an analytics strategy going forward, starting with a planned rollout of Freedom in 350 districts across England. The process of analytics leverage contains 4 steps, which we will cover in this presentation. First, problem situation structuring, which in this case has taken the form of a rich picture analysis. Secondly, business model mapping, and here we've used a business model canvas. Thirdly, we will look to leverage the analytics in line with your specific requirements and questions, before finally looking to explore where analytics can be implemented now effectively for FW3 and in the future to improve your performance. So the first step of the process was for us to create a rich picture. Now we won't spend a lot of time going through this, given it's your company and you understand it well. But as you can see here, it gave us a detailed image of FW3's business model and the key context of the business. Within the wider context, we could implement analytics and aim to add value into this picture for the company's process and particularly the Freedom program. So in the second stage, we aim to add more detail through a business model canvas, through some really particular sections. Here we identified what we believe to be your key partners, activities and resources, your cost structure and revenue streams, your channels and customer relationships and segments. And most importantly, we look to identify and define your value propositions. Within this, we identified a commitment to differentiation and customer support, which are built on effectively in the Freedom pilot. However, as demonstrated with step 3, which we'll go on to now, there is space for analytics to improve the business both now and in the future.
Next, I will be discussing our findings on the impact of population demographics on sales, specifically focusing on the elderly population and the role of geographic area. Firstly, we set out to explore the relationship between the population and sales. Our initial hypothesis is that the population has an effect on sales. After analyzing the data, we found a positive relationship between the overall population and sales. However, since the product is designed specifically for the elderly population, we narrowed our focus on the elderly population to get a better understanding of the target market. By refining the data set to the elderly population and removing Birmingham because of its outlier status, we were able to establish Model 1, showing a stronger relationship compared with the overall relationship. This model demonstrates a linear relationship between the elderly population and sales, suggesting a positive relationship between these 2 variables. In the research question 2, we were particularly interested in understanding how rurality might influence the sales of the product. In the figure displayed, the x-axis represents the area and the y-axis represents the sales per head of the elderly people. Our analysis revealed a positive relationship between sales and rurality, indicating that sales are higher in more rural areas. Given the relationships found in the previous 2 research questions, we then developed Model 2, a multi-variable model incorporating elderly population and areas as independent variable and sales as dependent variable. This model aims to provide a more comprehensive understanding of the factors influencing sales. We found that both the elderly population and geographic area has a positive impact on sales. Model 2 yielded a R-square value of 0.89, which is higher than the R-square value of Model 1, which is 0.75, indicating that Model 2 is a more accurate predictor of sales.
Next is the Model 3 of the sales prediction. Apart from the area, we came up with the hypothesis that the population density could be an alternative representation of rurality. This is because the rural districts tend to have lower population density. Typically, people living in the rural areas tend to own more land comparing to those living in the urban area. Therefore, given the same area, population will be less dense in rural areas. As a result, we constructed a test to investigate whether elderly population density has an effect on the sales per head of the elderly people. The results show a negative relationship, which confirms the effect of the rurality on the sales. As shown in the scatter plot, the sales are high in the low population density part, which represent the rural areas, while the sales continue to decrease as the areas become more urban. The result obtained by this model produced the highest accuracy with R-square of 0.94, and the model is shown at the bottom of this slide. Next is a comparison between the models and suggestions regarding application of each model. First of all, the predicted total sales of each model is shown at the first row, where there is a slight difference between each model. Secondly, the reliability of each model is measured by the R-square value, where the higher the R-square value, the higher the accuracy of the model. As clearly shown in the table, Model 3 has the highest accuracy while the Model 1 has the lowest accuracy. Lastly, the most important aspect is the suggested application of each model. Since Model 2 is more accurate version of Model 1, the Model 2 is recommended over the Model 1. And as for the Model 2 and 3, for the Model 2, it is recommended for total sales prediction of all the districts combined, since the difference in the total sales prediction of each model is relatively low. Furthermore, the accuracy of the Model 2 is already high enough to produce a reliable prediction. As for the Model 3, this model is recommended in sales prediction of each individual district, since Model 3 has the highest accuracy. Okay, so to understand the differences between the Model 2 and Model 3 more, we constructed this plot, which is basically the deviations of the predicted value obtained by each model comparing to the actual sales value from the 72 pilot districts. So the red line is the deviation of the Model 2, and the green line is the deviation of the Model 3. So as you can see from the plot, the red line or the Model 2 is more volatile comparing to the Model 3, which indicating that the Model 2 is less accurate in predicting the sales value of each individual district, while the Model 3 is more accurate.
So finally, we've got some recommendations for the future strategy of FW3, and particularly where we can implement analytics. Firstly, we look at brand building, both increasing the brand awareness, and as we understand, it's been planned to expand both online and through supermarkets. And obviously, we can then try and look to implement analytics, particularly, for example, with online sales, as we've done with in-person sales. Secondly, we would look at customer support. Firstly, providing more services suitable for the elderly, perhaps hard of hearing, less technology, more in person, and also data-driven product optimization that can manage defect density levels and analysing customer feedback and purchasing trends to give customers a better experience and give FW3 some more feedback about how their customers are interacting with their products. Thirdly, we would look to embrace predictive analytics, both forecasting demand and identifying trends to help make decisions and allocate resources more effectively. This could take on a number of forms, but I would look to put FW3 with more of a future strategy and looking into possible sales trends. Finally, we would want to look into sustainability. Sustainability strategy will require reducing carbon dioxide emissions in production, transport and recyclable waste. And this obviously plays into the fact that FW3 has two markets, both in the UK and the US. We'll have to look at the differing regulations between the two and the cross capabilities of the two there as well. So that's the end of our presentation. Thank you very much for listening, and we hope we've answered all of your questions and that FW3 can see the benefits of analytics to its operations now and in the future. We'll be sending this slide deck over for you to review in more detail. If you have any further questions, please let us know.